Hey everyone, this episode is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download of your choice and get a free month subscription to Audible by going to audibletrial.com/missspots. Choose from over 180,000 titles, including Chris Jericho's latest book, The Best in the World, At What? I Have No Idea, and Dusty, Reflections of Wrestling's American Dream. Hey, maybe you want something else. I got one of Nick Offerman's audiobooks, and he narrates it himself. It's hilarious. It's great. It's entertaining. Get any audiobook available that you'd like for absolutely no cost. It's free. Go claim your audiobook for free today at audibletrial.com/missspots. Now, enjoy the show.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
Welcome back to the Missspots podcast on missspots.com, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn, and Geek Life Radio. My name is Mike, and with me, as always, is the primo to my epico. Here's Kevin.
Ole!
No. It's they don't do that. Well,
okay, I got. Ole, 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 ole. That.
Sure. Well, close enough. We'll leave it at that. So, here we are. Wrestlemania season is officially over. We don't have to talk about it anymore until we need to talk about it. And we now have Superstar Shakeup.
Hashtag Superstar Shakeup.
Pretty long hashtag to use. And we were not told by Shane McMahon what Superstar Shakeup was last week, but we learned that it was kind of just some moving and shaking going on.
Sure. Well, what the Superstar Shakeup, what we learned about it is it's what you do when you want to change the rosters, but you don't want to come up with any storylines or coherent reason to change the rosters. So instead of having trades and, maybe Angle saying, I'll give you this guy for this guy, it's when you just, shake up the rosters and just go, well, because.
Always because. Because wrestling.
Because wrestling.
And so, 2 days of this going on, and like Kevin said, we expected to see, we've made a trade, so-and-so for so-and-so, but no, it was just people coming out on Raw from SmackDown proclaiming that they're now on Raw, and vice versa. Sure. So, for no real reason, but...
Well, they did allude to the fact that they were on the phone, Shane and Daniel and Kurt Angle, working out these deals. I just think that would have been a good storyline to find out who got traded for who.
Authority figures are on the phone all the time on the shows.
I also think that it sets up character. It sets up Sami Zayn actually being upset that he was traded to SmackDown. Even though he's happy to be there, he wants to prove Raw wrong. It sets up, Miz coming over. He's either frustrated or thrilled to be on Raw, and he's happy to be here with this person. It's, instead of just having it happen because it happens, you could have set up storylines this way, but they don't really choose to do that.
Yeah.
Because that requires the thinky parts.
That's where the brain lives.
Yeah. The mind skull.
You want to just take us into Monday Night Raw?
Sure. So, it happened right away. We had Miz as John Cena once again. Where are you at on this? Are you ready for him to stop being John Cena?
Yeah, it's over.
It really is. I hope this was the last time that we saw that, because it is not necessary anymore. It was a good little, punk out moment where, maybe John Cena's here on Raw, but no, he's obviously on vacation. Him and Nikki Bella are both gone for the time being. But both Miz and Dean Ambrose are on Raw. What do you think about those two moves of those guys coming over to Raw? Is it new storylines you see them in? Do you think it's a good move, bad move? What do you think?
I'm I'm not sure yet. A lot of this, I have a hard time understanding the shakeout on things just yet. Miz has been doing the best work of his career over the past however many months it's been.
Over a year.
I think
10
over
months.
a year,
yeah.
So it feels like he might be leaving a good thing going into maybe a bigger pond where he might get just lost in the shuffle. I'm a little afraid of that for his sake. Dean has just been so lukewarm at best for a while that maybe this will be something good for him. But if they're going to put him into a program with a guy that he could have a program with on SmackDown Live, it just seems counterintuitive.
Sure. And Dean brings the IC belt with him over to Raw. It was my opinion that The Miz was ready for a main event feud on SmackDown. He really should have been put in that position because he can function that, and he has enough heat to do it. I don't see him getting in the title picture, the main title picture on Raw, especially with Brock Lesnar holding it, and maybe holding it for a long time, and guys like Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman. Where does Miz fit up there? I don't think he fits up in that main event picture where he did on SmackDown. Now, a lot of this has come down to we've heard that, it was supposed to be this guy or this guy. These are all rumors. We don't really know what the plans were, but some of this almost always feels like it was a last-minute decision to go, this guy instead, because the internet knew. Mm-hmm. And if this was that choice, and that was a big mistake, because, Miz really, I think he was doing a hell of a job on SmackDown. Dean, I'm with you. He's been very lukewarm, and he's way overdue. Watching his back and forth with Miz, I'm ready for a Dean Ambrose heel turn. I've been ready for a while. I think it's time to pull the trigger and refresh his character. He's not just going to refresh his character coming to Raw. He needs to do something different.
Yeah, and he's not this protected commodity like Roman Reigns is, where it should seem like an easy thing to just pull the trigger on a heel turn for him. So, I mean, we can see what happens there, but yeah.
We were surprised that Sami Zayn was still on Raw for Monday night, at least, and they set him up with a match with The Miz, who is just coming over. Kurt Angle set that match up for later on in the evening. That is a really, really cool kind of feud, and I thought that would be a really nice thing for Sami and Miz to work together, because I think those are two guys that could have played very well off each other. It leads into a tag title rematch, not a tag title rematch, a tag team rematch with the New Day, minus Kofi, who is, I don't know if it's storyline, him being out, or he actually needed some minor surgery to clean up something wrong with his knee or his ankle. They showed some...
I've heard both.
Yeah, who knows? Fact of the matter is, in the storyline, you've got Revival injuring Kofi, keeping him out. You got Big E and Xavier going in at these guys again, and we get the Revival coming out for the second week in a row, winning this match in a clean manner. This was not cheating to win, and the Revival looked good. Now, the crowd was not as behind them, they weren't as hot as they were the week before. Kind of thought that might happen, but they still were getting a rub from the most popular tag team in the entire company. Kudos for the New Day for putting those guys over a couple times in a row. And what do you think about the Revival's chances now on Raw of getting over and being important?
It will depend on the crowds, where the cities that they're in, the how much the crowd wants to or knows about them or wants to know about them. I think that they have the ability to win over some of these crowds because they have very just old school heel tactics that tend to work. That's why they've always been tried and true, because they've worked through the generations. Plus, if they can get a crowd to pop off of the shatter machine the way that they got up for that, because that was a hell of a shatter machine.
It really was, and it wasn't perfectly executed, but it looked devastating, and that's what that move should look like. It's a really, really cool finisher. I just think they need someone good to work against. They need a popular babyface tag team to work against for their shtick to work. If you don't care about who they're wrestling, then you can't care about them being bad guys against the guys they're wrestling. With
with New Day out, Enzo and Cass seem like the likely ones there, because you have two face tag teams going at the titles right now with the Hardys and Sheamus, and that pretty much just leaves you with heels.
Although you have Slater and Rhino
Sure.
there too.
Well, we'll obviously
Yeah.
we'll see what happens with that, but it is. I'm really happy they're going a good route with the revival. It shows that they have, at least for now, they have some confidence in their ability to get over and do some good things, because they easily could have debuted them in the same way they did with the Ascension and the Vaudevillains and so many other tag teams who have not gotten over from NXT. So that's a really, really promising thing. Kurt Hawkins, for some reason, has been traded over from SmackDown, and he gets punched in the face by Big Show. Now, you'd think, okay, well, Big Show and Hawkins had a match, so Big Show came out and punched Hawkins in the face. No. Big Show just came out for pretty much no reason, punched him in the face, and left.
He's the Raw welcoming committee.
What a real...
You didn't see it because it wasn't on camera, but Miz and Dean got punched in the mouth too.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just assuming.
Well, I mean, punching a guy with no provocation, what a guy. Kind of a dick move, I think, on Big Show's part. Maybe he's still pissed off that Shaq didn't take that match at WrestleMania.
I mean, it's kind of his nickname, kinda dick, Big Show.
We get T.J. Perkins versus Austin Aries with Neville on commentary. Perkins, there was some interaction between Neville and Perkins before this match where he was trying to goad Perkins into saying he was the only person, Neville, that believed in him still and wants to see him be a little more aggressive. This is teasing a T.J. Perkins heel turn, and we got it. After a little bit of a distraction, Perkins ended up getting the victory with a roll-up, and then comes and gives a beatdown to Austin Aries after the match. This is the most interesting T.J. Perkins has been since his debut.
Yep.
And we'll see what this does for his character. He looks like a white meat babyface. I don't know. I've never seen him play the heel before. But at least it's something for him to try to dig his teeth into. I don't know if you can still run this gimmick, this video game gimmick, as a heel. It looks a little cheesy, a little bubblegum, but we'll see going forward. But he's got some great offense. He can work. He's got excellent ring work and some devastating moves that could work for a heel. Is this guy going to be able to do some work in that division as a heel?
I don't know. My knowledge of T.J. Perkins from the Indies is mostly as a babyface. And just pretty straightforward babyface. I've never really seen him work heel before, so this is new territory for me seeing him in. So I'm hoping that this can be something great and new for him, just as it was for Neville, because I had never seen Neville play heel before. He teased it a little bit in NXT, but not towards this extent. So hopefully it can be a revival of sorts of his career.
Sure. And from a babyface who's awkwardly might be trying to play a heel to a heel that was awkwardly trying to play a babyface in Seth Rollins. Seth had an interview or a in-ring segment where he said he really wants to stay in Raw, and he has stuff to work to get done, and really playing to the fans. This was a lot of love me kind of stuff. Do you agree? And my thing is, I think we just need to be patient. This is a new direction for Seth since he's asked for the fans' forgiveness and asked to get a second chance. And I think it didn't do him a lot of favors leading up to WrestleMania, but as a babyface now, he's not the number one babyface on Raw anymore, or, well, he hasn't been for a while, but he had the potential to be at one point. I think that Seth still has loads of potential as he gets his character down a little bit, he gets his swagger back, and is allowed to do some interesting stuff. Angle tells him, no, you still have a home on Raw before Samoa Joe attacks him. Angle getting a little involved in that, too, where Angle tried to split the two guys up, and now we know Angle and Joe's history in TNA of barn burner matches, which was very interesting. But Seth ended up getting the upper hand here, running Joe off. There was this big tease that we were going to get a Triple H stable with starting with Owens and Joe. We now know that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
Is it Joe and Rollins? Is this what we're going to see next?
It makes sense, because there is that unfinished business. Joe hurt Seth's knee. Seth because of that, had to miss some time, and then they had to just really quick put him back into the Triple H feud without having had him deal with Joe.
No real payoff to that.
So they got props to WWE for not completely glossing this over and forgetting about it, going back and realizing, oh, we got some loose ends that we need to tie up here, and I'm more than okay with that, because we haven't seen a true Seth and Joe one-on-one match yet.
And Joe really needs some focus right now. After being introduced, getting really good reactions, being important to the storyline, missing WrestleMania altogether, it's time to get some focus on Samoa Joe and continue the real introduction of his character, continue the evolution of that character, at least on the main roster. The match with Charlotte and Nia Jax was in response to some altercation they had the week before. This is two heels, right, going against each other. If there was ever an example of a person losing their way out of a territory, I think it would be Charlotte losing to Bayley, losing to Sasha, and then losing to Nia Jax.
Yeah, very true.
On Raw. Charlotte played the babyface the entire time. She was getting beaten up. She was the resilient one, having to come back, busting out that moonsault to the outside, which was essentially a kick in the head to Nia Jax.
Yeah.
After getting slammed on her head by Nia earlier on in the match, it was sloppy. I really do worry about Nia's ability to protect the people in the ring. That being said, Nia is going to be the monster heel on Raw. This was the right move with Charlotte taking her leave.
Yeah, it was scary at certain points. The attempted shoulder breaker, and then just kind of dropping Charlotte on her head, and then that moonsault, just knee, foot to the head. It looked rough, and they need to look out for one another better in the ring. It's funny how, and it's not funny. It's sad how we praised the coming along of Nia for a good while, and I think even more so than a lot of other people did. There were still a lot of doubters and detractors on Nia when we were like, hey, she's coming along, she's getting better. She had good matches with Bayley, good matches with Sasha, and that she hasn't been able to put together some other good matches with other people. Maybe she just has good chemistry with those two, or because she can throw them around and make it look ragdollish, that it works there. But this set her back, I think, a good bit, and maybe even in WWE's eyes.
Well, you don't know if Charlotte actually was injured at all. We don't know about that. You just got to watch it when you see someone slamming in their head like that. I'm sure that there's someone watching that, making sure that they're going to address those issues and maybe limit the move set and continue to push what is good about her character, which is exactly what you said. She can ragdoll around a bunch of people. Mm-hmm. Another person that was really, really kind in kind of losing his way out of Raw, which was Jinder Mahal. This is a guy who's been just a monster on Raw for so long and such an important character. And for him to be, to acquiesce and allow Finn Balor to go over him as he was exiting over to SmackDown, I think was just really lovely. So, kudos to Jinder for not, having the pride, and swallowing that pride and allowing this young kid, this Finn Balor kid, to come up and beat him.
Yes, but now we have learned that Finn got a concussion during that match.
Yeah.
So fuck Jinder.
This was an unspectacular match played to a pretty lukewarm crowd, honestly. This was not the Night After WrestleMania crowd, and I think that they have some work to do with Finn if they really want to make him a megastar. And they're doing the video packages. They're showing all the fans putting their arms up in the air to his entrance music. That shows me that they are all in to get him over in that way, because they're basically telling the crowd, this is what you do when he comes out. And if you get that yes chant, you get that delete, you get that one thing that the crowd can go along with. Sometimes that's more over than the wrestler. but it serves them a really, really good purpose. So even though the crowd was a little lukewarm, it looks like WWE is on the right track with him. Really confused as to Bray Wyatt coming over to Raw. He's still in a feud with Randy Orton in a House of Horrors match, whatever that means. And just surprising, Bray had, in a smaller pond on SmackDown, had won the championship. Been derailed in a terrible angle with terrible matches and a terrible storyline. With Randy Orton, we thought maybe he could drop that title back to Bray, and maybe he could really fulfill his promise. Coming over to Raw seems like a step down for me. And interacting with Finn on the first night, that's a little surprising. I don't necessarily know that we need Bray to be jobbing out to Finn immediately if that's the way they go after he loses to Randy in the House of Horrors match, because he's not bringing that title to have two main titles on Raw. We know that's not going to happen. So, Finn, Bray, does that excite you?
Kinda. I'm going to be honest here.
But, okay, so on paper, these are two guys I think could work together. But does it really excite you that Finn has to beat Bray in a pretty convincing manner?
Not to that extent.
Bray once again is just another guy. You can only claim that you eat worlds and you're a conqueror and you're this, that, and the other so many times, right? He's already done it so many times and never fulfilled it.
100% correct there. And when you do look at it in depth, this is not a good thing for Bray because he needs a feud that he can win, as we've been saying for 3 years.
Yeah, forever.
But just as, like, I don't know, if I can put some of that smart part of me away, I kind of like this match because I like what interesting things can come from the weirdness of Bray to the mind games and demon of Finn. Just looking at it from a purely entertainment standpoint, rather than the long run of things.
Yeah, the long-term implications. I'm with you. I think this will be a good feud, but at some point, every time that Bray loses a decisive feud against anyone of note, it takes a little luster off him because he hasn't won one. Mm-hmm. Eventually, you got to give him one. You got to tick out something in the win column. This is when we got the also ran rundown, right? We got Apollo Crews and his friend Kalisto, of course, coming over to Raw from SmackDown. We
can't ever separate those lovers.
You can't. They can't quit each other. You have Rhino and you have Slater coming over to Raw. Does this do anything for you?
I mean, it does something for me in the way that seeing a pencil on a table does something for me. Nothing.
Oh, wow. That was an interesting analogy. Apollo Crews, loads of potential, no character. Kalisto can absolutely plug into 205 Live. Mm-hmm. He's a cruiserweight. He should have been involved in this from the beginning. So that would be a good thing, hopefully, for him. And Rhino and Slater, they were over for a hot minute on SmackDown. They caught lightning in a bottle with those guys. I can see them doing something interesting in a secondary tag team feud for now. They'll most likely not do anything, just like they were doing for the past 6 months on SmackDown. But these are the guys who transitioned. These are the guys that transitioned that aren't going to do much. They're there to take pinfalls, it seems like.
Yeah, it's Sandow all over again.
We get our Sammy and Miz match. The one thing I think about when it comes to Miz also in SmackDown is that we never really got the payoff with Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
We knew Daniel wasn't going to get back in the ring, and that's not what I'm talking about. We never got Daniel Bryan saying, you know what, I'm tired of it. I'm gonna shut your mouth, and I can't do it because I can't step in the ring because WWE won't let me. I got Sami Zayn. I got Shinsuke Nakamura. I got Dean Ambrose. I got somebody to be my proxy and shut Miz's mouth. That was a story they planted the seeds months and months ago, and we never got that payoff. We should have seen it at WrestleMania, but they had to put John Cena and his fiance in there. So it's not the end of the world, but it's one thing I would have liked to see happen.
Yeah, this is kind of WWE stuff right here. They can have something and it's working long term, and then just decide, it's good enough for us to be over. We'll move on to something else, and just leaves everyone else feeling unsatisfied, unfulfilled, and
long-term planning doesn't work for anyone but Roman Reigns, apparently.
Yeah, really fucking long term.
Sammy does get the win with a roll-up, and okay. This next segment was one of my favorite things I think I've ever seen. Yeah. This was Braun Strowman's absolute, total, and utter destruction of Roman Reigns in about 6 different ways. There was 4 break points, I believe, where you could have gone, okay, this is done. But no, he wanted more. Up into and including turning over an ambulance as an individual human. Now, we have to believe there's some assistance.
Oh, yeah.
That was involved here. It was campy. It was a little cheesy, but it worked. It looked like Braun was destroying this man. I joked with you saying next week he's going to throw him out of a plane at cruising altitude. It's the only way to up the ante.
The fans loved it. They chanted, "You deserve it," when he...
Yes, as Roman was pushed off of a loading dock while strapped into a neck board, they were chanting, "You deserve it" at Roman.
WWE, there's Roman's ambulance going by right now outside. But WWE had to know that Braun was going to get cheered so much for this.
And how can you boo a guy who can turn over an ambulance?
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a reason, the Incredible Hulk does some bad things every now and then, but he's the Incredible freaking Hulk. He can do amazing things. This is what Strowman looked like here. He looked like he could destroy everyone in the world. That guy's a pretty interesting character. Roman played before this with the interview with Cole that set this all up. This all shucks babyface that, I had to do what I had to do with The Undertaker, but I respect him, and I always said I respected him. No, you didn't. You acted like a smarmy asshole leading up to the match. They're once again trying to cast him in this ultimate sympathetic light. And at one point, I think before the ambulance flip, or maybe before being pushed off the loading dock, they might have gotten in that territory where you're like, oh man, yeah, he took a big beating. I'd be interested to see him come back. By the end, they went so over the top that
yeah.
People were chanting for Strowman, "You deserve it," for Roman getting destroyed. Nah, 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 nah.
Yeah.
Nah, 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 nah. Hey, hey, hey. Goodbye. As he's leaving in the van.
This was Stone Cold territory with the relentless attack coming back to it, which was it's comedic and it's brutal all at the same time. And then they take it to that whole another level of turning over the ambulance. I loved every second of that.
They did no commentary over the top of the beatdown at all. They let it stand for what it was. That was a good decision. This was done extremely well. It just had, once again, the opposite effect of what I think they were trying to do with it.
Yeah, I mean...
tone deaf. I think tone deaf is the only way to describe it. Do you have anything else on that?
No.
Other than that, it was amazing.
The video of that on WWE's website within less than 24 hours got over 3 million views.
It will go down possibly as one of the most epic beatdowns in wrestling history.
Yeah.
It might very well. And that's a lot of history, Mike. Yeah. That's a lot of history.
That's like 10 years.
Yeah, 10 or at least 10, maybe 15. The multiple person tag team match where Anderson and Gallows and the Shining Stars were forced to team up was almost as bad as what Braun Strowman did to Roman Reigns. I felt really bad for Anderson and Gallows for having to team up with the Shining Stars against Cesaro, Sheamus, and the Hardys, who the Hardys and Cesaro and Sheamus are going to fight at Payback for the titles. Matt is seeming less broken by the day.
Yeah.
doing more of the original Hardy Boys shit.
He's holding up the version 1 sign.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. They're very popular right now.
Mm-hmm.
If all they do is from this point forward become a throwback act, like the Dudley Boys, their popularity will not last very long. I really believe that, because when you strip it down, that their age, dressing like they're 25 in 2001, looks a little ridiculous. And in the ring, other than a few big spots, which is, their signature spots, it's a little rough, especially with Matt. If they would let them go with these broken characters, that would be something that they have had some success with in the past in TNA, and would be interesting and new to the WWE crowd. I really worry about their long-term booking of the Hardys right now.
I do as well, but I do. Here's how I look at it. The nostalgia will last, I think, a little bit longer than the Dudleys, because I think that the Hardys were ultimately a much more popular act than the Dudleys, primarily because Jeff was a superstar. Like, he was a main eventer. He held the world title. And I think that will help them keep that nostalgia pop for just a little bit longer. But you are right. They are going to have to come up with something else after a little while. They might need to break them apart and have Jeff just be Jeff, because Jeff can probably run off of being Jeff, where Matt's going to need a little more help with that push. And that's where that broken character comes in. He still makes the faces a little bit. He still does the one quick delete chop, here and there. And I could even hear him say delete, when he did it. But I think a lot of that's going to come down to what happens with TNA over this fight for who owns this. And
sure, but every wrestling major promotion has tweaked characters and let them use basically the same exact character when they came in. Mm-hmm. So I think they can do it. I honestly think it's cockiness, and it's the WWE is the only thing and the most important thing of using them purely in that nostalgic way.
It will work for a little while. And I, like I said, will be more than the Dudleys, because they're going to go to all these different towns, and it's going to be like, hey, do you hear the Hardy Boys are back? Let's go see the Hardys. Remember them? Cool. But yeah, it's going to have to turn into something more than that. Obviously sooner rather than later, but it'll last longer than the Dudleys.
I can see diminished crowd reactions over time. And I don't think it's a great thing. Them showing up at WrestleMania was the highlight of WrestleMania, other than the Undertaker's retirement for me. Yeah. And I hope those guys deserve that, and I want to see it continued for as long as possible. The strangest thing about this match was not Matt and Jeff semi-broken. It was the fact that the Drifter, Elias Sampson, came out and just didn't do anything.
Yeah.
He was announced, and Corey Graves lost his mind because he hates the Drifter more than anything. And and the camera never went back to him, and they never mentioned him again. So apparently he is literally drifting around arenas.
Well, we were talking while we were watching SmackDown. I missed it and you missed it too, but I was able to see it then on social media. He walked by the hard camera during Charlotte and Nia Jax's match. He was in the crowd, and he just walked straight left to right with his guitar over his shoulder, looked at the camera, and just kept on walking in stride.
I think, and I said this from the beginning in NXT, this guy has the ability, he can get over. He's got an amazing look. He's no slouch in the ring. At least his offense looks decent. And he's got a character that people want to hate. I think it could really work. And if you look at the reaction to El Vagabondo with him in the mask and the people cheering it, people want to react to the guy. Mm-hmm. I really think that he could be one of those wild cards in this whole shakeup thing.
Yeah.
And I would, especially for a good mid-card character that is a character.
And they should have played off this a little more on Tuesday, but they didn't.
Yeah. So Dana Brooke apparently has bought a book Dana Brooke has bought a book. Say that 10 times fast. Was it Be Your Own Protege?
Yeah, How to Be Your Own Protege.
Yeah. But I just found that really, really funny for some reason. Emma wants her back in her, as her protege, like they started at NXT and move it to Raw together. And Dana straight up admits, I might not be the best in the ring, but I'm getting better. Well, you know what? Sometimes calling a spade is the best thing to do. And saying that she's trying to work her way up, that's a character. That can work. And Emma's response to that, basically just being incredulous and not giving, and just you're walking away annoyed. That right there could be a nice little feud to get Emma and Dana Brooke involved in the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Secondary feud, maybe even third feud, but yeah, it gives them something to do, which is vitally important in order to get Dana better.
And also to have a focus in an actual feud. What we got again is the continuing muddling of the women's division on Raw when we have Mickie James and Alexa Bliss both being added to Raw from SmackDown, in the ring with Sasha Banks, in the ring with Bayley. Nia Jax comes out to destroy everybody, and we got 4 or 5 people again around the women's title picture. They need to clean this up real quick. These multi-person matches, they put them on for Mania to get everybody on the card. I understand why you do it, but it doesn't make for a compelling story. They need to get back to a personal feud. Right now, the best feud is probably Bayley and Sasha, with Sasha turning heel. If they don't do that, they might go back to Bayley and Nia. Alexa Bliss being brand new, she should be involved somewhere, but they got to get some focus here. It's been too long. They swapped the title back and forth a bunch of times with Sasha and Charlotte. They pulled the trigger too quick on Bayley. They essentially neutered her character, so to speak, by changing it up and tweaking it and basically not letting her be Bayley. And winning matches by having interference. Exactly. Not letting her be the ultimate bubblegum babyface, which is what her character is. And then they put a bunch of people in a feud that didn't need to be there at WrestleMania. They don't need to continue this on. They need to get something coherent, something good put together. Alexa Bliss and Mickie James being on Raw? Sure. I think there's something wrong with that, but they need to get some focus. Yeah. The main event was Dean Ambrose and KO. Now, I originally thought this was a title versus title, the way it was announced. It always seems that way. They just said champion versus champion, meaning that their titles were not on the line. There was absolutely nothing was going to be gained by winning this other than being the ultimate champion on Raw. So you put Dean and KO, 2 guys in the middle of brand switches with your 2 secondary titles, and let Dean Ambrose get a clean pinfall victory over KO for absolutely no reason. After KO had a terrible title reign where he was treated as an afterthought and as a paper champion, thankfully gets a win at WrestleMania, gets his U.S. title back, which maybe, okay, now Kevin Owens can get some steam behind him. He takes a pinfall loss in his very next match.
Next 2 matches.
His next 2 matches.
Because he was the pinfall in the tag match the following night.
Right, and that, obviously that's not an ideal situation, but that's a little more forgivable than a one-on-one match against Dean Ambrose, the other mid-card title holder. I don't think that this match helped keep any viewers around. No. I think that this was a throwaway match that just continues to expose Kevin Owens as a guy you should not care very much about. Yeah. Sad. So, that was Raw. And it was very interesting to see who came over from SmackDown. I think that they set up some decent possible, things and feuds. That's great. But overall, I think some of the booking decisions they made were pretty poor. Yeah, as we've said before, no real reasoning for anything being done. So why do we care? But moving on to the second half of the Superstar Shakeup Extravaganza 2017, we have SmackDown Live. Kevin Owens starts off the show in a suit, haircut, trimmed down beard, and mustache that barely looks like it's even there.
cuts down Boston, cuts down Americans by saying Canadians are better than Americans, and therefore he will be the best U.S. champ. Baron comes out a little weird. He's acting heelish, but still talking trash to KO, saying that he's owed a title match, so he's going to take KO's title. Sami Zayn comes out, so Sami is now on SmackDown Live, because you can't ever have KO and Sami be apart from one another. Why would you ever want to make that future full-on feud be special? AJ Styles is out next, and he's pretty much playing babyface in this. Bryan comes out and says that the winner of KO and Jericho will be the one who's on SmackDown Live. So they'll have a triple threat between the rest of them for number one contendership, and that is happening tonight. Anything to add?
Having the superstar shakeup and having Kevin Owens on Raw, you assume, well, he's not going to be on SmackDown. Well, of course, they have to, because there was no trades, there was no talk about it, we didn't know who was going to come over. Obviously, having Dean and Kevin Owens on the same show, both having mid-card titles, was not going to happen. So we knew Kevin Owens was coming over here to SmackDown. Mm-hmm. That was obvious. He really needs to be a big frickin' deal. And the fact that he started the show, that's a good thing. So I'm a fan of that. Kevin Owens needs to make that U.S. title special. And he has the ability to do that, and they should book him in that way. Would be my only request. Sami Zayn is now on a program that gives longer matches that are a little more interesting, a little more in depth. We saw that with the main event of SmackDown. That's a really exciting thing. And I love Baron Corbin being involved, because Corbin has a rightful gripe with his Intercontinental title picture that he was in with Dean. I thought this was a very effective opening, and the fact they didn't just set up a tag team match with AJ and Sami versus Dean and KO, which we predicted.
Yeah.
I was happy. They put a triple threat match, and that match...
They swerved us.
It determined a number one contender. There was a result to that match that mattered. This was all worked very well.
Yeah. And then speaking of that, we have the polar opposite up next with kind of Eric Rowan taking on Orton for reasons that somewhat make sense, but we shouldn't really be going there. That's what I wrote. Randy controls the match for the most part. Bray comes on the screen, says some stuff, and then sees Rowan on the outside, goes out there after him, and eats the steps. DQ, end.
With them deciding, maybe at the last minute, maybe it was long-term planned, who knows, that Bray was going to go over to Raw, I would have been so okay with them saying, you know what, the House of Horror match is canceled, and we're never going to let these two wrestle again.
They could have been... Bray could have stayed on SmackDown, and they could have said that, and we would have been fine with it.
So that, once again, surprising that he would move over in the middle of a feud. We know that Randy Orton and him are going to have probably a lackluster match, and Orton's going to retain a title. And Bray still continuing to interact with him. We have to see that because they have to keep building the feud. The thing with Eric Rowan, what the hell are they going to do with Eric Rowan? If he's not with Bray Wyatt, he does not have a character unless they want to go back to the fact that he makes wine at home and can solve a Rubik's Cube really fast. And I don't see them doing that. I don't think that character is going to work on its own. And, and also, why would he ever get a one-on-one match with Randy Orton? I don't think Eric Rowan has won a singles match in 2 years.
For reasons, Kevin.
So
wrestling reasons.
This was a time filler.
Yeah. Then afterwards we had American Alpha getting their rematch for the tag team titles against the Usos. Bet you didn't remember that the Usos had the titles.
I bet you a lot of people did, and you're right.
This was a really good match.
Really good match. This was a match where false finishes abounded, and a lot of them could have been the win. A lot of them could have been the end. They were really well done. Man, these guys can put on great matches. I wish I wish the crowd cared more, and I wish that the writing staff cared more and put a little more focus on it.
Yeah, and phenomenal work from these guys. Usos retain, but then after the match, we have the Shining Stars attack American Alpha because they're obviously on the show now, but is this getting American Alpha away from the tag team titles for a little bit? And if so, are the Usos going to be defending against someone else who we'll see possibly a little later on? It seems like a step down to me for American Alpha.
Well, quite honestly, they did not light the world on fire. And the crowd reaction diminished every single week. Not necessarily because of their fault, but the booking was not great for American Alpha as champions.
Yeah, when they're not on the show for 2 weeks at a time.
I think they were crowned too early. I don't think we saw enough of a chase. I think there's a lot of mistakes that were made with American Alpha in general. But yeah, getting them away from the title picture is fine. Putting them against the Shining Stars, great in-ring workers. They were not wearing their Caribbean vacation gear. We might see a slightly more serious team up with Primo and Epico, which I think would be a welcome change. So I'm okay with this. They were jobbers on Monday Night Raw. They could be presented as something different on SmackDown. I hope they are.
Yeah. Mojo Rawley taking on Jinder Mahal, another acquisition of SmackDown. So far, Raw's winning this.
Oh, sure.
This superstar shakeup extravaganza. Gronk is there, and he throws a beer at Jinder. Mojo wins.
Jinder was coming over to replace Kurt Hawkins, essentially, as a guy who loses a bunch of matches.
Yeah.
A heel that gets beaten by baby faces on a regular basis. And this is Mojo getting a spot on SmackDown. He got an interview the couple nights after WrestleMania. He gets a match here. It ties into the WrestleMania, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. They want to give this guy a push, and they want to remind the fans continuously that he is a friend that plays for the New England Patriots.
They're in Boston, so that works.
Yeah, so I hope Mojo gets over. I really do. I hope his character continues to grow. I have never been a huge fan of his, but they can win me over with good writing.
Yeah. And they had for a couple points this serious Mojo in some interviews, and I wanted to see where that goes, and it just seems like they've kind of abandoned that and just gone to he's a jock.
He's more serious, though. He is not the same guy that was cutting just spastic interviews on NXT. He's still doing some silly stuff, and he wanted to know what it would look like for Andre the Giant to dance. Yes, that was stupid, but he has toned it down a bit. That's
true. Shane is out to shed some light on the women's division, and he congratulates Naomi. He has all the rest of the SmackDown women who are still on the roster out there, and introduces the newest member of SmackDown Live, who is a second generation star. And I'm like, oh, they're gonna do something here with a swerve, and I just spurted out Tamina, and it was Tamina. They bring her out. Fans are obviously not happy about that. They're chanting, "We want Sasha," being in Boston. Shane feigns that he's leaving the ring and then comes back. Oh, no, you weren't expecting me to say Tamina. Well, we have another assignee, and gets them all a little riled up. And then he says Charlotte, which is a big name, but not what the fans were thinking. And
sure,
he played to them in a false manner. Kind of shitty there, but because Shane's supposed to be a babyface.
Yeah, I mean, that's the bottom of me.
Charlotte gets the Nakamura treatment from last week. Music hits, comes out, end of segment.
Yeah, everyone was in their gear. Charlotte comes out in her robe, everything looks like there's going to be some kind of match, and we cut, and that's the end of it. Charlotte coming over to SmackDown is a good move. If she continues to play the same character she played on Raw before the little mini feud with Nia Jax that teased a babyface run, she could be that dominating character on SmackDown and have some fresh opponents and some fresh storylines. Someone like her and Naomi could be really, really good for Naomi, particularly, and helping to get Naomi more solid in the ring, more consistently over, and more character development. So I'm all for that. Tamina was just kind of there. I like the idea of the superstar shakeup. We got Tamina from obscurity. We got her from obscurity because she wasn't on Raw, and she hasn't been seen in a long time because of injury. And at first I thought, oh, they're going to put Tamina there, and Naomi's already there, and they get Sasha Banks, and they'll reform Team Bad.
Yeah. Oh, God.
That would be a nightmare.
Yeah. Sin Cara and Rusev are added to SmackDown Live via graphic. Good for Rusev. Hopefully this can be a fresh start for him. So much talent in that guy who just constantly gets misused. So would love to see good things come for him over on the blue brand.
I completely agree. Sin Cara's there to take pinfalls.
Yeah. And do luchas things. Aiden English is in singing gimmick, which was rumored after the release of Simon Gotch. And Ty Dillinger comes out, gets a pretty good reaction from the crowd, and wins a match that was fairly competitive. Aiden got some offense in there, but the most recent call up, the hot hand, goes to Ty, and he picks up the win there.
Good they're trying to do something with Aiden English. I think he has a lot of talent. He's got a lot of charisma. I hope that he gets a shot to do something, whether it's just this or something bigger down the road. And Ty got a great response, and it was a good way to utilize both guys.
We got a vignette for Lana in some sort of dancing gimmick looking thing. So pretty much Fandango. But what this probably means is that we're going to get Lana wrestling.
Yeah, I think it almost has to be. And I know she's been training for a while. And does this probably also means that no more Rusev and Lana together. And Lana will most likely not be just his mouthpiece that comes out and talks for him. Mm-hmm. This could be a good thing for Rusev to update his character. And listen, Rusev has all the charisma in the world. That guy might be a on fire babyface, and that might be one way to get him to do that. Who knows? And Lana, they wanted her to be the new Sable for a while now, and some things in the backstage stopped that from happening. So maybe this is a big push for her.
Yeah, we'll see what that is, and hopefully
she's ready for the competition.
Yes,
that's my big thing. Because there's a lot of talented women there that can put on good matches. We don't want someone botching everything.
No, we don't, and we don't need a Luna to have to carry her around the match.
Yeah.
Dolph is in the ring saying he's staying on SmackDown Live. Nakamura comes out. Very big ovation for him.
I would say out of all the guys that got the big pops post WrestleMania, Nakamura was the one that sustained the most from week to week, which is great to see.
Yes. Dolph says he doesn't know who he is. Nakamura introduces himself, not in the fashion I would have. I would have probably used my knee. Dolph tries to kick him, but he's caught, pushed away. A little bit of flamboyant action from Nakamura, and Dolph bails out. I'm okay with this. As being the opening feud for Nakamura. I know that you would have loved to have seen him compete for a title, or compete against The Miz, as was very slightly teased last week. But we know that Dolph is more than a competent worker and will be able to put on good matches with Nakamura and guide him along the WWE style matches, because while NXT is still in WWE, doesn't have nearly as much time as he would down there, and Dolph is very well acclimated with that style of work and can guide him through some of that.
This is a perfect feud for him. This is a slam dunk. We know that he's going to beat the first guy he goes up against, and whether or not his star has fallen significantly, he's still a name. He's still a guy that the fans know will put on a great show, and he's a guy he can beat and doesn't really hurt Dolph much and gets a chance to put Shinsuke over proper. Mm-hmm. So I really like that move.
Yeah. We get another video package for another new SmackDown Live roster member. The New Day are coming to SmackDown Live. All three of them are in the video package. So it says coming soon. So how soon, we don't really know. Could they be the ones to be going against the Usos? They're well over baby faces. We'll see.
If Kofi really had injury and they're going to keep him off TV, probably even, to go along with the Raw storyline, even if he doesn't, they might be waiting for them all to be ready to go again. So by coming soon, that might give them 2-3 weeks, maybe a little longer, who knows.
Yeah.
So they can debut on SmackDown together.
Hey, it's going to be 2 more weeks before they need to use the tag team division on SmackDown Live anyway.
Most likely, right.
Then we got the triple threat main event. AJ Styles, Baron Corbin, Sami Zayn. Fantastic match.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely fantastic match.
So well
Everyone
put together.
looked good in this. Baron looked good. Sammy looked good. AJ looked good. We had some really nice sequences put together here that told a great story. And there was a few points where we thought that Sammy was going to win. And we're like, okay, this would be the perfect time to make Sammy win. Nope, they're not going to go with that. In the end, AJ Styles wins with a really nice series of segment that got put together right before that. And this means they're going to go with AJ against whoever the U.S. champion is. We're assuming it's Kevin Owens. A little surprised to see him kind of drop down to a mid-card title, but if 2 guys can elevate the prestige of a mid-card title and make it important, AJ Styles and Kevin Owens are 2 who I can believe can do that.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. This was just great. When you watch triple threat match, they can so often be really, really sloppy because one guy always has to be sleeping on the outside for a while. They did a great job with this, and this is 2 excellent workers. There's Baron Corbin, who's getting better in the ring all the time and is really underrated at this point. And whoever helped them put this match together, just kudos. This was exciting. It was fun. It held the attention the whole time. This is the kind of match that Raw wishes they could put on as a main event.
And they absolutely could.
Sure.
But they just don't.
The in-ring work here between the tag team title match and the main event just hands down blew away anything that Raw was able to put up on the ring this week, and continue to show that this is it kind of has gone off the rails sometimes with the Randy Orton stuff, and SmackDown hasn't done a very good job booking the tag titles, and they have their own problems with the women's division being overcrowded and kind of a clusterfuck. But end of the day, they still put on good matches and have better and more coherent storylines for whatever that's worth.
Yeah. All right, so that's Raw and SmackDown. That's the Superstar shakeup.
I'll be happy not to hear that again for another year.
God. A lot of people moved around. We were, while watching SmackDown, kind of going between ourselves and figuring, okay, these 2 cancel each other out, to try to see who really got the advantage out of things. And it seems like probably Raw got a little bit of the advantage here.
By the time it was all over and you put the New Day on SmackDown, I think it was a pretty close even trade. I think, because it says New Day are way, way over. And the fact that they kept AJ Styles, they got Dean and Kevin Owens are pretty much a toss-up as far as popularity. I like Kevin Owens a little bit better because I like his character a little better, but I think, that's splitting hairs there. Rusev is equally a big a deal. I think he could be, if not right now, as the Miz. Sami Zayn is a great character to come over. So I think that by the time we announced that the New Day was there, I think it was a pretty even split.
Okay. It's been quite a while since we've done one of these. We might be a tad bit rusty, but we got a top 5 for you. It probably been well over a month.
Well, with all the WrestleMania stuff,
yeah,
and previews and breakdowns, yeah, it's been hard to keep get enough time to do one. But here we'll try to make it pretty clean here.
All right, so WrestleMania has come and gone. We've had the Superstar shakeup. This is where WWE can reboot storylines, create new storylines, and just start afresh for the next wrestling year. So we've decided to put together our top 5 things that WWE can do after WrestleMania now. Kevin, why don't you start things off here?
So, kind of in the spirit of what I had mentioned earlier on, and this is probably not going to be a popular decision, but I think one of the most important things to do coming out of WrestleMania is to have the Hardys put over the Revival. Not right away. I think the Hardys should have a little bit of a tag title run. I think the nostalgia is there and strong, and I do think the Hardys have a lot to offer still for the next year or even longer than that in the company. But a really strong heel team, it should have been Anderson and Gallows. They really have that, similar bruising style. They ended up becoming doctors and jokers and all this stupid stuff. The Revival, though, are something special. Their ring work is amazing. If the Hardys can put on a really good program that spans a couple months and put the Revival over, and the Revival can grab those titles and have a stranglehold on them for a while and defend against all challengers, use heel tactics, you could have a really, really despised tag team that also happens to be the best tag team in the world right now. And I think the Hardys doing that would mean a lot. You might see a split up of the Hardys after that to do other things, or they can continue to run, with the other guys underneath, help put other guys over, help fill out the card and make the other tag teams seem special. So I really think that's something they should do.
That would be a great way of helping establish the Revival, I think, and really establish the tag team division. To me, maybe this is the old school mentality that I have. I've always felt that a heel tag team champion help keep a strong tag team division going on.
Sure.
Because they're willing to do whatever it takes to hold on to the belts, and it makes then the pursuit of the baby faces even more fiery, in the long run. You know what? I'll run off of using the word fiery, because I believe that it is time for the WWE to sever their ties with JBL and just be done with him. There's no secret about what JBL has been backstage and through most of his career, and it's coming more to light recently with the allegations against him of bullying Mauro Ranallo, causing a depression episode in him, and ultimately leaving the company. And Justin Roberts has thrown salt into the wounds with his recent book that has come out. Dave Meltzer has just fired on JBL as of recent in his Wrestling Observer Radio episodes. I mean, it's hard to dispute a lot of this, and now major publications are picking it up, like Sports Illustrated, and WWE can't just sweep this under the rug at this point. They're going to have to do something, and I think it's time for him to go away. He hasn't been entertaining for quite a while, and if he's doing childish antics like this, there's no place in a global publicly traded company for actions like this. Promote Nigel McGuinness to your main roster. He can absolutely work a heel role way better than JBL can. Just do that, move on, get away from it.
So much of what JBL is because of what he's asked to be. I'm just talking about the on-screen presence.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of this has to be a philosophy change on the commentators to really make a big change. But we've seen what Corey Graves has done on Raw, which we think he has similar limitations, but Corey has been a revelation. It's time for something like that on SmackDown. With Morrow being gone, the play-by-play guy that's been a revelation, it's time for somebody else to step in that place. And I couldn't agree with you more that it's time for that to happen. I think that this upcoming year after WrestleMania, it needs to start the breakup of the New Day. Not right away, obviously coming is the same thing as the Hardys I was saying earlier. Not immediately. They're coming over to SmackDown. They have to have a couple feuds. But as we're going out of WrestleMania and before next WrestleMania, we should see the implosion of the New Day. We should see the birth of Big E as a championship contender, as a mid-card level heel coming out of that stable. Big E has loads of charisma. He has the charisma and the body of a future main eventer. And I think that if anyone comes out of this New Day faction, it's going to be the superstar. It's going to be Big E. They could have him win a title while still part of the faction as a babyface. Eventually his ego splits them up, ends up destroying and taking out both guys. Both Xavier Woods and Kofi could go on to do good things as well themselves. But the New Day in general has been a little stale. They're treading on some of those nerves of being the same thing every single time out, and starting to tease a little bit, starting to move in that direction, I think will be an ultimate benefit for the company.
And I think that they did tease some interactions like this a few months back. I still think they're even teasing it slightly right now with the kind of differences that X and Kofi are from Big E. Big E's making a lot of kind of innuendos recently that is turning off the other guys ever so slightly. Maybe I'm reading into it a little too much and it's just a big dick joke that's going on, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
With AJ staying on SmackDown Live, this is a huge opportunity for WWE to truly just make this AJ show. There were times where SmackDown was Edge's show, The Undertaker's show. Can make SmackDown Live truly AJ's show with this revelation that he's staying put. Now is the time to truly make him the babyface, give him that title, and let him run and make you buku bucks, get great ratings, put on fantastic matches with all comers, and be the face that runs the place on the blue brand. Randy's a heel for all intents and purposes. We all believe that, except WWE. AJ's a face for all intents and purposes, and they appear to be going in that direction. We know that Randy can work a good match. We know that AJ can work a good match. Let's give this some time with probably have it go towards SummerSlam and have AJ win the title at SummerSlam and start running with the ball there. It would be in the best interest of WWE to do something like this.
This was actually probably my number one thing. But I'm going to let you have this and I'll go on to something else. I'll just say that AJ Styles, no one is smoother in the ring. No one sells as well and makes their offense look as believable. You can take any non-wrestling fan, sit them in front of a television, have them watch an AJ Styles match with pretty much anyone, and they're going to cringe a little bit. They're going to jump out of their seat here or there, and they're going to go, wow, I didn't know that this was what wrestling was like. AJ is not Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's not John Cena. He is not whatever they think Roman Reigns should or they want him to be. He may never be this ultimate crossover guy, but he could be a Shawn Michaels or a Bret Hart. He could be a person that still crosses barriers, that brings people back into the product that haven't been there for a while. We need guys like that, and AJ Styles he just has all of that ability.
I see a lot of CM Punk in him. He was a guy who we all knew that he was great in the ring. We knew that he was good on the mic, and he didn't care that some people might not think that he can be the top guy. He just went out there, did his job the best that he could, and just proved it to you that he can be great. And that's what AJ's been doing in the past year and a half that he's been in WWE. He's just been proving naysayers wrong.
Yeah, babyface AJ Styles is the way to go. I'm going to put a focus on the mid-card titles, and this could be with an asterisk that says, always this should have been happening. I could have 3 weeks ago, we could have had this top 5. A year ago, we could have had this top 5. 5 years ago, we could have had this top 5, and I'd be saying the same thing. Focus on mid-card titles, especially on the Raw brand when your world champ isn't on the show. So you need to have a strong mid-card champion. Right now, Dean Ambrose and KO are good choices to have those belts. But when you look at Dean Ambrose, you look at KO, you look at The Miz, you look at Nakamura, you look at Rusev, you look at a possible guy like Cesaro moving out of the tag team ranks. There's a lot of guys who could be around those mid-card championships. Possibly someone like Big E coming out of a tag team, Ty Dillinger. There's a lot of guys with a lot of charisma that could be fighting for those titles, making them special, making them important. This company will be infinitely better and more interesting and draw more people to be compelled by the week-to-week storytelling if those mid-card titles are not just props that a guy carries to the ring until he doesn't carry it to the ring anymore, if it's important and special to them. KO has done this before. We've seen great things with John Cena with the U.S. title. We've seen The Miz do really, really good stuff with the IC belt, only for it to kind of just slip back into obscurity again, where they don't even really push the guy that has it, and he's not an important part of the show. You gotta do it. At some point, you gotta pull the trigger and care about these guys and make it important again.
Mm-hmm. I'll piggyback a little bit off of that, and I would like to see in the mid-card title hunt Miz and Seth. Miz coming over to Raw. We talked about how this could be a rough go for him, but if I'm handling things and I think I could see things, I would have him take the Intercontinental title off of Ambrose. It seems to be the direction they're kind of pointing at there right now. He's a great Intercontinental champion, and I would be more than okay with him breaking Jericho's record for that eventually, the number of reigns. And Seth is kind of lost in the shuffle of the main event right now, because Brock is not defending the title at Payback as was first thought. And the next challenger appears to be Braun. After Braun takes care of Roman in a probably gimmick match of some sort, he'll go on against Brock. Then Brock will have a little bit of time off again, and you have other people who could, in theory, be a part of that match, because Finn is still technically owed a rematch for the title that he never lost, and that could be the next segment there. So you got to keep Seth busy. You need to keep him relevant. So put him in a match or in a feud with The Miz over the Intercontinental title. These two guys can help elevate that title, and as we've talked about before, let's try to make it more important, especially when our top champion is a part-time guy who's not going to be there every week, and give a title that the fans can be invested in week after week from episode to episode. And this should be able to get both guys over quite well.
I agree with that. This is something I mentioned briefly in the rundown for Raw and SmackDown, but this is a very, very important thing, so I'll mention it here in my top 5. Get some focus on individual storylines for the women's title pictures on both shows. Individual problems, conflicts, issues with two people that hate each other are what drive storylines. It makes good, compelling television. Let's get a one-on-one match. Let's make the next couple pay-per-views when these belts are being defended, both on SmackDown and Raw, one-on-one matches where people can develop storylines, develop hatreds, develop resilience against another person. It's time to get some focus back on this. I know there's a lot of women on the roster. They want to involve them all, and they have no ability to do secondary storylines. It's time to put on your big boy pants and write some good stuff for a secondary feud. Use that if you need to put, 3 people involved and do some tag team stuff. That's fine. But the title really needs to be something that is a focus between 2 people, at least for a little while, to get away from all this clusterfuck nonsense that went around through Mania season.
Mm-hmm. I'll stay on talking about the women here, and I want to see Charlotte run roughshod through the women's division for a good while. And here's how I would probably put it. I would have her feud initially with Becky, probably the best other woman on SmackDown right now. Have her win, beat Becky. Becky's kind of in a place where losses don't really hurt her, I think, at this point. She's still very over with the crowd. And then you have Charlotte beat Naomi to get the title and fend off Naomi, beat a few other women along there, and look dominant in doing so. She's the alpha woman of the division, but all the while be building Becky back up. Have Becky think that I got to the bottom, I lost to Charlotte, I'm going to work my way back up. I'm going to earn the right to fight her again, and have that ultimately lead to Becky unseating Charlotte, but all the while building up to that, making Charlotte look like the ultimate force in the women's division. You play Becky as a little bit of an underdog in there, working her way up, and have a feel-good story. It's something that should have been done with Bayley. But I want Charlotte to look every bit like the best women's wrestler in the world during this.
I couldn't agree more. Charlotte is incredible, and featuring her on SmackDown should be really good for that division, and the storyline you proposed, I think, would be really good. My last thing on my top 5, I'm not going to say what you all think I'm going to say. I'm not going to say turn Roman Reigns heel, because in my predictions for this year, predicted he would not turn heel, hoping that by saying that, I would mind-fuck Vince McMahon, who doesn't listen to this podcast at all, but somehow will get it through osmosis, and he would go, oh, now you don't want him to turn heel?
Works?
Yeah, sure. Okay. It's like chloroform or foil or something. And that he would turn Roman Reigns heel to spite me. I still think that might happen, so I'm not going to jinx it. What I'm going to say is that what they need to do is not get tunnel vision with Roman Reigns, and set the main event of WrestleMania to be Reigns versus Lesnar right now. At some point in the near future, you have to have a WrestleMania main event that ends with people cheering.
Yeah.
They haven't had it in a couple of years.
That used to be the reason for WrestleMania, was to send the fans home happy.
Right. So if they continue, if they can still try this project with Roman, they can still, pound their head against a brick wall all they want and try to make him babyface and fail and repeatedly fail. If that's your modus operandi, and then you want to play off the fact that he is a heel, we just book him differently. Okay, fine. But the fans are, at some point, you have to deliver the feel-good moment. At some point, you have to let the fans, like you said, go home happy at WrestleMania. There are other opportunities with guys like Finn Balor, guys like AJ Styles, possibly with Seth Rollins down the road, babyface Bray Wyatt. There's a lot of guys that could step into that spot and be cheered by 70,000 people. If you don't get tunnel vision and just say that at all costs we have to get Roman Reigns over in this way, then you can possibly pull the reins back, so to speak, and do the right thing for the booking of the entire show and for the company at large. And it's wishful thinking, but that's something I think is very important.
It's the right way of doing pretty much anything in life, and I guess I've just been halfway decent at piggybacking off of you with this whole Roman thing. We've seen over the past 3 months that there is actually a guy who the fans have built up a liking for, slowly, steadily, and now it's just kind of exploded, and that's Braun Strowman. Like, they've booked him nearly flawlessly since the draft. That's why I say nearly. Kevin was giving me the little, yes, there was a big bump in the road at Fastlane, and with a little bit of the Roman stuff on top of that. But man, they have turned this guy into highly likable by the crowd. They love seeing him, and he's been entertaining. Why not build off of that more and elevate him, and not just as fodder for for Brock Lesnar, not just as as fodder for Roman Reigns. Realize that the crowd has accepted someone that you did kind of want to get over, but he's not your ultimate golden child. You gotta work with that and change plans. Daniel Bryan proved that. I'm not saying that Braun Strowman is Daniel Bryan, but he's certainly getting over with the crowd, and you probably got to change plans a little bit to accommodate for that, because you could really be missing out on great business. I've talked about you could be making money with something like this, and WWE likes to make money. And
that's their whole point.
Yeah. So give Braun the real push that he deserves. Have him, if he's not going to be a part of the world title plans, then give him an Intercontinental title run. I know I talked about something else in that plan, but you know what? Really got to work off of the momentum that you have built with this guy.
I agree.
All right. So our top 5 things that WWE should do, can do after WrestleMania. Let us know what you think of these. Is there something that we missed out? Is there something that you think that they could definitely do in the next year of wrestling that can greatly help the product? Anything else that you want to talk about before we head out for this episode?
No, sir.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in and watching us. Make sure that you check out all of our social media options out there. Follow us on Twitter, where we're tweeting along to Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, the pay-per-views. Also on Instagram, both of those are at MissSpots. You can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/MissSpots. But you can listen to this podcast in one of many wonderful fashions, such as our website, MissSpotsPodcast.com, or simply MissSpots.com. iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, TuneIn. We're on all of those services. You can listen to us every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on Geek Life Radio at geekliferadio.com. For Kevin, my name is Mike. We'll catch you guys next week. Good night. Good wrestling.